Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you. Okay, well, it is your 40th birthday week, and I think we're going to get some good life advice out of you, I think, in this episode, now that you are officially old and a sage now. You can be called an elder. I'm going to call you Elder Justin.
Oh, I like that.
Like, I'm going to you can now be a sensei, I think.
Ooh, I like sensei.
Sensei Justin.
Sensei Justin. I like that. I need to grow a gray beard. I just feel like senseis have gray beards.
Honestly, the gray is already there, so you just got to grow the beard.
I got to grow the beard.
Yeah, you just got to let it come. So I thought, well, first of all, if you're out there listening, Justin's love language is many things. It's gift cards to Good Big Bad Toy Store. Is that what it is?
Big Bad Toy Store.
Big Bad Toy Store.
Not wrong.
Gift cards to that.
.com.
Or messages about how he's impacted your life.
Trips. You want to send me somewhere on a trip?
I'm all thinking like they could DM you happy birthday. And you're like, you could send me to Bali.
Yeah, I mean, Songdoon Cave.
Songdoon Cave. Anyway, so any kind of shout out you want to give him for his birthday, he feels loved by.
I do.
He reads all of the messages and it really impacts him. He cries a little tear every time he reads one.
That's not actually true.
Nope. But you do feel impacted by them.
I do feel impacted by them.
It's one of the things I love about you. So you're 40. You're becoming 40. You're old.
Yeah.
Let's start with some light, easy questions. What did you used to think about the age of 40 when you were growing up?
I thought that 40 was old people for sure. Your parents are like 40 and you think that they're so much older. Right. Like you just process, that's a parent. They're an old person. Yeah. Now that I hit 40 and I know a lot of 40-year-olds, I'm like, they're all children raising children.
Totally. That's very true.
I feel like you don't really adult till you're like 80, maybe.
I mean, well, I think I'll hit my adulting stride by like 50. I feel more and more like an adult every day.
I do too.
Yeah. So we're growing.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's a good episode on aging, kind of to talk through the journey of aging and the gift, the beauty of aging. Cause I think in our culture, it can be counter culture to enjoy aging. Everything is young. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what was the birthday age where you freaked out about how old you were getting? Cause it's not 40. You haven't freaked out about 40.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. I'm just yawning here. I'm getting old. I'm not used to these late nights anymore.
It's 5 o'clock.
I actually 40 is the age I freaked out. No, I'm serious. You don't know about it.
Oh.
So pre-40, around 38, 37, 38 freakouts were happening internally for me. And I was processing, and 30 felt good, 30, like I'm 30. Yeah. Didn't feel like I was getting older. Felt like I was hitting like a youthful stride. Yeah. And even 35, I was like, oh, I'm halfway to 40. That's crazy. And then like probably 38 was when I started being like, oh my God, 40 is right around the corner. What does that mean? And I think that there was a hot second in a part of me that processed like, there was like, what have I done with my life? Have I done enough? What is, I think a lot of people at 40 feel like their best years are behind them. I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying there's a lot of people that feel like, but I feel like on the flip side, it's actually a fresh starting point. It's like you've kind of hit what would be kind of the halfway mark. Right. But that halfway mark comes with a lot of growth and development if you've engaged it at any level, a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it's kind of like a rebirth to me, for me in my perspective. I'm like, this is outside the freak out, right? But I think like, oh, there's a rebirth about to happen where I can walk, I can talk, I can do all the basic things, and I get to decide how to live this second life, like this rebirth life. And what do I want to do with it? I can either, it doesn't mean that my past doesn't have effects on me, but I can actually like redesign all of this with all of this information and strength and capacity and decide what I want to create. So that feels exciting to me.
Yeah.
But I think that I did examine at 38, like, you know, should I be further along? I had a lot of should things that kind of came up inside of me that I kind of trampled on.
Yeah, I think when I was around, I think it was like 36, 37 for me, when I started having the feelings of this isn't what I thought my life would look like at this age.
Mm-hmm.
Something about it. I think I only visualized to like 35 really when I was younger. Like the adults in my life were in their 30s. When I was babysitting for adults, they had, you know, younger kids or whatever, and I'd babysit for them. They were in their 30s, and that was as old as I was imagining and visualizing my life. So when I started getting to like 36, 37, I'm like, my life looks nothing like what I thought it would look like at this age. And so that's when I hit a lot of hope deferred and like that feeling of, is this the life that I want? And how do I grieve the things that aren't what I wanted?
Yeah.
And what do I do from here? And so I think that, and I think that happens for a lot of people in their later 30s. I think a lot of people hit the like, it's almost like you can just be moving forward in life and not even thinking about it. And then there's like a moment that you hit of like, wait, is this the life I want? Is this how I want it to be? Is this how I want it to go? Wait, I actually can't keep surviving this way, the way that I had been. I can't actually keep doing this. So it's very, it can be very jolty for sure.
It can be, but you know, it is definitely an awakening for a lot of people where they, like I kind of said, like, what is the life I want to design?
Yeah.
Like, is this is a great point in my life to dig in my heels and decide to, you know, redirect the compass. So
something I love that we purposefully have done, and I would recommend it for anybody younger than 40, or if you're older than 40, just take the numbers and increase them. But we started talking at a young age about how our 40s and 50s were going to be great. We were like, our 40s, we're really going to hit our strides in our 40s. We're really going to come into our own. That's going to be a season where like things come together for us. I remember I got a book when I was younger about all these people who made huge impact in their 40s and 50s. And I remember looking at a lot of the people around me who were changing the world, impacting it on a deep level. It began like they obviously were similar to us, had been doing things for years, but in their 40s and 50s is where they were actually able to impact culture more.
Right.
And I also was looking at kind of the older you get, the more I'm so thankful for time. Like, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of shit we got to work out inside of us. So I'm so thankful that there's things that haven't happened before 40. Yeah. Like I'm needing to transform and to become more and more of my authentic self. And so it ended up turning to where I think both of us just feel excited about 40s now. Yeah. Does that feel true?
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that was a little bit of a gift for me is that I felt like I had an internal knowing in my early 20s. Felt like there was an internal voice that had told me, hey, like 40 is when your life will start taking shape, like in a way of the trajectory will shift and you'll feel like kind of like an exponential growth or opportunity. Like all of a sudden expansion will take place and almost like you'll start running in the stride of what you were designed for and things like that. And it felt like there was something that told me like, until then, just say yes to the journey, be faithful, grind it out, work it out inside of your heart, whatever it is, whether it's relationships, business, or things like that. And so I found myself settled for the most part, like, hey, am I just saying yes to each day well and each season of life really well, and doing what I know how to do, what I feel a yes on or an invitation into.
Right.
And that gave me an ability to be at peace, and then an excitement about like, okay, let's see what develops as 40 hits, and trust that. I think that I learned radical trust to get to that point. But going back to something you had said, I was just reflecting on is, you were talking about dreaming later on in your life. And I think that was one of the most impactful things that I did with that knowledge, with the knowledge, that feeling of like, it's going to start ramping up at 40. And we still don't know what 40 is going to look like, but sure. I just have a trust inside of it. And there was a couple through a season, I kept even people in their 70s and 80s that left impacts. And I was like, oh, it's never too late. Like I was breaking any lie inside of me that there was a point where you passed, like your opportunity to leave some impact or fulfill something that you feel is wired inside of you.
Right.
To see a fulfillment there. So I just like have a lot of hope and anticipation for each decade being like more and more opportunities and beauty being fulfilled.
Yeah, I think that there's, you get to shape the life that you want. And I remember at a young age, we lived in LA when we got married, when we fell in love, and LA is like a very like, I remember ageism so much there.
Yeah.
Like being young and beautiful is like the goal of life.
Yeah. If you didn't make it by your mid 20s to late 20s, you're done. That was the emotional feeling in the space of like, well, good luck waiting tables the rest of your life was the attitude towards actors who didn't make it by then.
Yeah. And I remember just being like, I want to fight that for my life, because what I believe about life, I will see happen. Like we live out the subconscious pathway we see in our minds oftentimes. And so I remember being like, I want to dream for my life that in every season it gets better. In every season I grow more. In every season I take more time. And I think both me and you have had such a commitment to wanting to grow and become.
Yeah.
And we've been okay that takes time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've been okay that doesn't happen right away.
Yeah, I think that's changed the game for us completely. I think that lowers torment. Mm-hmm. I think it's very easy to feel tormented when you're not feeling like you're connected into a bigger process, and that process is safe, mm-hmm. and that it is for you, mm-hmm. and that you'll get everything that you need out of it if you continue to say yes and be diligently humbling yourself to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of people live in a lot of torment because they can't. How
do you think that like having Paul Young as a mentor for you impacted your view of aging?
I think that's a really good question. I see, it was when he was, I think 40, when he had his affair and his life fell apart, and it was 11 years later, through 11 years of healing, losses, getting down to a 900 square foot house with his entire family living in it because they'd bankrupt and lost their home. And, it something about watching him emerge at 51 and watch like almost like the kiss of God on his book and on his life, just mm-hmm. like grace visited his home. Mm-hmm. Grace as a person came and showed up and said, hey, I'm going to do something that you could never dig yourself. You could never dig yourself out of this on your own, and you could never create this on your own. And what it did to me was it told me like, hey, the kiss of God can come at any point in my mm-hmm. life. And no matter how dark things get, no matter how mm-hmm. heavy things get, like I can learn, constantly in my hardest times when I was my most broken or suicidal or something like that, and text him just feeling like everything's falling apart. And he would just remind me like, hey, there's just grace for one day, live in the grace of one day. And that profoundly affected me. It was, we've known him for over 15 years now almost. And it's just been something that's in the back of my head at all times. just live in the grace of today. And so it caused me to learn how to trust. It caused me to learn how to settle. It caused me to further learn how to be present with the moment that's right in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's been so beneficial. He's just one of many mentors that we had that, like I said, have gone through really hard things, but had really good things happen, 40s, 50s, 60s.
And watching that, is just like, one of the things that in my life, I believe that people who are in different places than me, in places that I wish that I could be or want to be at or dream of, I don't believe that they're there to squash my dreams. I feel like they're there to illuminate my dreams.
Yes, to expand your view that it's possible for
right.
you.
So people become like, people like
prophecies.
Paul are, they're true north for me. And each one of these people, whenever they're dropped into my path, I never feel jealous. I never feel hopeless. Like, oh man, they have this, I could never get there. I'm just like, oh my gosh, they are a compass pointing to my true north. They're here to highlight a special design for my life. And I just kind of really, settle in and get excited about the people who are planted in my life.
Yeah.
That are excellent and have beautiful, adventurous stories. It just excites me.
Well, in whatever age you're at, I would recommend you find somebody that is an age older than you to start looking to like give you hope for when I'm that age, that's what's possible.
Yeah.
And so that you have vision and hope. Like I'm watching people in their 70s and 80s and seeing how they're thriving because I'm wanting to redefine what it could be like for me. I'm wanting to already sow in positive seeds into my future, into my story, like that my future is going to be good and that there's hope for every season. And honestly, one of the things I've loved, I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to answer it first for me.
Oh, okay.
The question is like, what is something that you really like that you've learned because of getting older? And for me, one of the things I think I like the most is I have settled in. I used to have fear and panic all the time about like, am I going to do something with my life? Am I going to get somewhere? Am I going to blah, blah? There's all of the like, who am I going to be and what am I going to do and how am I going to get there? And I feel so much more now like, gosh, there's a lot I need to work through and I'm at peace. Like, I don't feel like we have stepped into what we're made for fully.
Right.
I feel like we get to do things. I love doing the podcast. I love doing our life consulting school. I love the courses we run. It's so fulfilling to see people's lives change and transform and families change. That's beautiful. I still don't think that we're stepping into what we're made for.
Our design. Yeah.
But I have never felt so much peace and relaxation of like, I just want to take as much time as possible to get the best version of me as possible. Like I look at Paul Young and I remember thinking like, God, you are so much the type of human I want to be. And that only comes through the years of process. And I used to be like terrified, like, oh no, what if it's a couple years of process? And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, a couple years of process is fine. That's how long things take. I remember, I think like 5 years ago, I had so many things in my life fall apart and I was like, I need to get better in a year. I need to get better in 2 years. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, of course it's taking me like 5 years. It might take me 10 years to pull myself back together after that season. And that's fine. Like I've like given up my battle with time. The older I've gotten, the more I just have surrendered to it because I actually believe in goodness.
Yeah.
I believe that goodness is coming. I believe that there's hope on the other side. And that doesn't mean I don't have hopeless moments. I've sown a lot into changing my beliefs and my mindsets and what we speak. We speak into the future positively. And so I have less panic about things taking long. And so like something that took a year in my 20s felt like that was like the death of me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my God, a year. Like if somebody gave me a prophetic word and they're like, in a year, this will happen. I'd be like, no.
I know. I wait an entire year for a pre-order on an action figure nowadays.
It's very true. It's very, very true. Yeah.
Do you want to hear what I had to say?
Yeah, I do want. I was going to ask you.
Yeah. I think something I've learned in my short 40 years here on this planet is that nothing is beyond redemption. No one, no circumstance is beyond redemption. Whatever that redemption looks like doesn't, like a lot of times people have an idea of what redemption is supposed to be, but I've surrendered my idea of what redemption is supposed to be. And for me, I'm like, I looked at my life and all the biggest pains and difficulties I see scenario after scenario where there's redemption, whether it's someone coming back and apologizing, or it's a circumstance that works out in my favor out of something that was very painful or difficult. It's just like, I am in a heart posture of receiving redemption. I think some people are, they work against redemption sometimes, unknowingly. They're resistant to redemption. They want to fight life. They don't want to go with the flow of life. But as I get older and I'm at peace in a posture of trust, I see that the things that needed to be taken care of, like I maybe in the past hoped for revenge.
That's true.
On situations versus redemption.
Yeah.
Revenge is like, I want to exact my own human justice against you so that you would feel the pain that I felt and understand those circumstances. And I died to that as a general concept and went from revenge to redemption. And so redemption, even if I have a really bad scenario with one individual, they may never apologize, but there may be someone that comes into my world. I say maybe, there always is someone or something that then ends up in my world that brings about a repair inside of my soul, a connection, and even longings that I had for maybe a relationship over here that didn't work out fully. And then all of a sudden someone else shows up and it's like, oh, that's what my heart needed back here. And it's getting taken care of now. Redemption is coming around.
I love that.
I let redemption be something that is very loose in my expectations of what it looks like.
Sure.
I just know that it's available to me. And I've had so many stories.
Oh yeah.
Over and over and over again of people who have either wronged me or mistakes have happened. And then all of a sudden it comes full circle and there's beauty from it. It's not just, an apology. Sometimes some of those people have become good friends, things like that. Even losses, to me, like there are people that feel devastated when they lose like a house in a fire or things like that. And those are all painful, and the scenarios like that are worth grieving. But if we're willing to trust and be patient, redemption's waiting to find us in those scenarios.
Yeah. That's really, really good. I think redemption is, so I believe in redemption more than I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my 40s, probably because when I was younger, I thought I did everything right. So I didn't need redemption for me personally. So I had less personal experience with it.
Yeah.
And the older you get, well, the older I got, everybody's different. The older I got, the more aware I became of messes in my own heart. And so redemption felt like much more personal, and like that I want that to be a true reality. Otherwise it's really sad. I
think even some redemption is not just an external thing where there's been pain or loss from us, but there's, like you were saying, we've created, say, a mess, made our own mistakes as human beings. And redemption looks like the opportunity to try again, the opportunity to clean up messes, the opportunity to do it better in another relationship or whatever it is, to learn and grow. And there's a lot of opportunities for that.
Yeah. What is something that feels solidified in your identity, that in your, like this year when you're turning 40, that you haven't felt before?
That I haven't felt before?
Like, what's something about your identity that feels different at this age?
I think it's been slow building, that conversation. There's been a slow build of confidence, of like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I don't feel like I have to prove anything to anyone. I am who I am, and I'm growing in the midst of that. So, yeah.
So you feel less like you have to prove yourself.
Well, again, I'm thinking in my head how you said, like, here at 40, I'm like, well, that's been building all the way up through the journey where I like.
Well, I wasn't trying to say something that magically is happening now.
Right,
I'm saying like that the gift of being this old has created what?
Yeah, I just don't feel like I have to prove myself at all that I'm aware of. Like, I'm not sitting internally being like, oh, I need to show these people that I can do this, or I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care if you don't agree with me on stuff. I don't have to prove that I'm right. I don't know. I don't have to prove that the way I'm living my life is right or wrong in other people's eyes. I'm like, I like my life. I like who I am. I like how I manage my relationships. I'm happy and I'm proud that I have I think I am deeply proud of myself.
Aww.
When I look at my life.
What are you proud of?
My tenacity, my grit, my yes to each process that feels difficult. I am honestly, this will sound ironic, but I'm actually proud of a level of the humility that I've chosen to engage. I think humility is something that we can choose to engage. Like, I'm going to choose to humble myself. I'm going to choose to go, I don't have this all worked out. I need to figure this out. And that's something that I'm proud of myself for doing. Even in our relationship, say there are times where maybe you don't feel like I'm humbling myself in one of our arguments or something. There's something that's so wired inside of me. I go away and I ask myself, like, rigorously, how could you do that better? What's going on inside of you, Justin? And I like that I've programmed that, because early on, there was a lot of resistance. A lot of resistance. There was so much shame there that I couldn't sit down with myself and ask myself those questions. It was hard to humble myself because of shame. Shame causes us to be proud.
Absolutely.
Pride is really like the manifestation of shame.
We don't want to be bad.
We don't want to be bad. So we're unwilling to let our guard down.
Or to face the areas we're wrong, because we're afraid if we're wrong, we're
makes me bad. Yeah. And so I think that there's been a pretty big eradication of shame. And I especially, as I'm moving into my 40s, have tried to be especially proactive, even like within our life consulting masterclass or the podcast here, or things like that, or in relationship with people that I'm above in leadership, constantly being like, hey, I'm messy. I don't have all the answers. I'm really trying to learn here. Whereas before in the past, I think I would try and be strong and be like, no, I got this all together and things like that. And like, there's so much shame that's been eradicated through even the proactive movement of acknowledging I'm messy. I do not have it all together. I am learning and growing.
Yeah. It's interesting because I asked you this, but I was going to answer it also. Like, what do I feel like age has given me? And I was going to say the ability to not deflect with shame, like the resource to say, yeah, I am messy in that area. Yeah, I don't have that figured out. Yeah, I'm still working on reprogramming. Yeah, you're right, I probably didn't do that right. That ability to own a lot more of my behavior, to look at my behavior more honest. Like, it takes a good amount of resource. When I say resource, like a good amount of being connected to love and changing your mindset from good and bad. I've had to be like, no, I can do messy things and that doesn't mean I'm bad.
Right.
I can, like, I've really worked to eradicate and learn common humanity, learn and understand, like, there's some things that are just human. Like we do self-protectors. That doesn't mean I'm bad. And now I can choose what to do with it now that I'm looking at it. But I think the ability to look at myself more honestly and accept myself and feel less, like, I see more of my flaws and I feel less shame.
Yeah.
Like, I see more of my mess and I see less shame. And it also,
I can see that in you.
Thank you. It also
you're
has,
welcome.
It also has really impacted my view of God. Pizzi, this morning, we were doing our Pathway to Freedom immersion call.
Yeah.
And Pizzi she said something like, we're really messy humans with a perfect God who can love us all the way through. all the way. She said it so much better. I'm butchering it. But basically it's like the concept of I've never really fully understood, and I still don't think I do now, but grace until I started recognizing and owning all my messiness. And then you're like, to be loved messy, to not feel like I have to fix. I mean, I spent years trying to fix myself so that then I could be lovable. To actually radically accept myself before I'm fixed. To radically accept myself while I'm really fucked up. Like that to me is like the most beautiful gospel, that there is a God that wants to love us fully right now in the present before everything's finished and done, and who actually doesn't have the goal of us being finished and done, and likes the process more than the destination, and wants to just walk with us and be with us. And I feel that letting go of the destination as the goal, like so much of the torment in my life has stopped the past few years because I've given up like my future fear hunting of like, I need to see this happen to prove that I'm good. I need to see this happen to prove that I am okay and that I made it or I impacted something. And now I'm just so aware that God likes to be in the process.
Yeah. You know, speaking of God, I was kind of thinking of this, things that I have gotten really deep within my heart. I guess I was thinking about lessons or belief systems that have gotten wired in there. And I have crossed over, I would say, 100% into the idea that God is good all the time, and that there is a good God who is truly involved inside of my story. I remember historically, you know, growing up within the faith institution of Christianity, people saying God is good and all the time he's good, blah, blah, blah. And that felt like a pleasant platitude or something like that. And I was like, I don't know that I can talk about the reality of God being good. I don't even know if God's real. Like I believe in God and then I don't. Like the part of me is like, I don't know if I'm just believing a bunch of bullshit, you know?
Totally.
Like, and
we all feel that.
Yeah.
There's moments. But
there's something that I feel that I've fully crossed over. Now, you know, it's all up.
I'm sure something could trigger another
pocket. But there's something inside of me where I truly got off that judgment seat inside of myself and relinquished my ability to accuse God as some evildoer in this grand scheme of life, and really been able to be like, oh no, there's a really good dad who's is in the middle of my human messiness and is here to repair my heart and to redeem and restore situations. And like, I used to have, I don't want to say anxiety, but I almost felt like if I told somebody like God is good, or talked about God as a concept to somebody, there was moments where I felt like insincere. Yeah. Because I wasn't fully there. And I am very much someone who hates
authenticity is so important to you.
I hate insincerity. So I'm like, well, whatever. I'm not.
So there were a couple of years you just didn't talk about it.
I really didn't.
Yeah.
I really didn't, because I was like, I don't know if I feel this is true or not. And for me, again, I've suddenly been like, no, I have been able to see you in so many things that felt mysterious. Even if I still can't explain parts of things that don't make sense, I can still see your hand, your faithful, loving face, your smile inside of my story. In the hardest, most difficult circumstances, I can see the blessings and the kindness, and I can see the grace manifested. And I can feel like the reality of God as my true source of life, where like I feel alive in my connection with God. And there's something inside of me that's like, I just don't have those wars anymore. And that feels grounding to me. That's part of why I think that I've even gotten more comfortable in my own skin, more confident in the life around me, because I'm like, no, I know, like, people can argue all day long whether or not God's real. I'm not here to get in their arguments in their heads. That's none of my business. I know that God is real. I have seen that God is real, and I know that God is good. And I know that God is loving, and I know that God is caring. And yeah, I know that my life matters to him.
Yeah. I think that when I was listening to you, one of the things I was thinking is for our listeners, like just to remember the hope of whatever it is you're facing and you're wrestling with. Like if you could take something from this podcast,
yeah,
it's to remember, one, it's okay to be in the wrestle with whatever it is. Like,
yeah,
am I going to do something with my life? What is my identity? Am I lovable if I'm doing something or if I'm not? Who am I? Do I believe in God? Do I think God's good? All of that stuff is a real, like they're real wrestles. And if I could just encourage people, don't give up. Like that's one of the, I'm listening to you saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, you really are the most resolved with God you've been. But I've been married to you for the last
almost 15 years.
And I've watched firsthand the wrestle over and over and over again. I watched you wrestle with God before your parents acknowledged that abuse had happened in your childhood. I remember you feeling like, oh, a pocket of my pain with God got resolved when my mom took ownership. That was a part of me seeing God differently. And that was year one in our marriage. And then when I got sick, you really struggled for a long time, and understandably. And so there's this journey for me of realizing, watching you wrestle over and over again. Is God good? Is he not? You got sick. You got better. I got sick.
Yeah. I mean, I almost died too. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much that I've seen you wrestle through, and to see you land in a settled place. I just want to tell people out there, like, it might take you years to wrestle through something. It might take you a decade to wrestle through something. Yeah. But you can overcome things. You can get to another side. You can process through something, even if it takes longer than you think.
I think the wrestle is unto something. And that's every person has an invitation to start a wrestle. There's an invitation across the board, because there's things that are trying to be worked out inside of us. There's lies about who we are. There's lies about who God is. There's identity issues that need to be worked out. There's development that's taking place. And so there's going to be a wrestle with stuff. And I am so comfortable, not only in my wrestlings, whether it's this issue that feels pretty solid for me, or any other future wrestling that might take place, or other people's wrestles. People get really scared when people start to wrestle, especially in the area of faith.
Sure.
Right. They have meltdowns like, my kid's wrestling with this, or, my family member is, or my friend is. And I'm like, why is that so scary? That is a natural part of their human experience, because they're getting truth settled down in the deepest parts of them. I think that a lot of times when the wrestle doesn't go well, it's when people just decide to tap out. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes when they let hope deferred take over, or they let the voice of accusation win out, and they decide that they don't want to get off a judgment seat inside of their own heart and forgive. Mm-hmm. Part of wrestling getting resolved is a lot of forgiveness. I'm not just talking about in that relationship with God, but in that relationship with people. Forgiveness has resolved a lot of wrestle inside of me when things didn't feel fair. They felt, I felt tragedies or losses or whatever. The more that I could get to forgiveness, the more I let go of the wrestle. Yeah.
That's really good. If you could tell your teenage self anything, what would you say?
I think that a lot of people have this answer when this is asked, that have lived any sense of life, but it's all going to be okay. You can love the life that's right in front of you. What you need for your heart to repair is all out there. You can let go of your relationship with fear, buddy, as fast as you can. Get rid of that. You don't need that. That's not benefiting you right now. You can get present with the joy of the circumstances right now. Be out of control. I'd tell him, get good at being out of control. The faster you can get good at being out of control, the more you're going to enjoy.
Not like live out of control.
That means surrender our need to control the world around us so that we can feel safe.
Yeah.
Or that we can feel like were making things happen.
Yeah.
I would, tell him, just learn how to be an active participant at the experiences that happen in front of you. Stop trying to control them. I would tell him that I believe in him. I would tell him, you have incredible gifts inside of you, and they're all going to find their way into the light. And I'm proud of you for every day that you choose life and you choose to show up and keep choosing. It all pays off. You don't have to have some hopelessness about the idea that you'll get to the destination, like get to the things that you need. Like you can let go of that hopelessness. It's real.
I love that.
Yeah. I wish that I could give him that. I wish I could literally go back and give him that. I think it would have altered so much. I mean, I got there, right? Sure. But I think that life would have been so much different for me.
What would you have told your 20s, yourself in your 20s? The process that you believe that you're in that's going to pay off actually does pay off. Like I told myself a lot. This will work. This will work. This
is onto something bigger. I know it is. I'm going
to keep choosing and saying yes. Eventually this will pay off. I
probably said that a million times in my 20s. Kind of get the, coaching myself. But I would say like, it actually does.
Yeah,
it does.
It's really amazing. The self-talk, it really does manifest in your life. Like what you say about your life, what you say about your future, what you say about where you're at, that really does affect you. And you would say all the time, this is going to pay off. This is going to pay off, even though you weren't sure if it would.
You know what else I'd tell him? I'd tell him, let people love you.
Yeah.
I'd say, Justin, let down your walls. Stop being the biggest person in the room. You don't have to be that. I'd say the faster you can get at letting people radically love you, the faster your life's going to fly forward. The more you're going to get to all the things your heart longs for. When I say things, I'm not talking about tangible homes and material stuff, but I mean, I think that comes with it. But it would just be like the happiness that you are after is in being radically vulnerable. Truly like letting your guards down and letting people hold your heart in the middle of your pain, not post pain. Yep. Not like, oh, I'll let you love me as I tell you the story of how I got through this.
What I did last week.
Right. But here's what's scary right now. I am in it in this moment, please. And I tell him, lean on people. You can trust them. You can trust that they're going to be messy. You can trust that they're going to make mistakes, and you can trust that they're going to show up with radical love, that they have the capacity to reflect from heaven.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Yeah. I held so many things against people. It's interesting. In my early 20s, let me see how to word this. I now understand that people reflect us. They only have a certain capacity to reflect God's love.
Yeah.
But they reflect whatever love that we have to give each other is like God's love that we're reflecting. Something inside of us is being able to reflect that back. And I was resentful about that. Like, and because it wasn't enough, like the capacity that people had wasn't enough, and it didn't feel safe to me because they could only reflect 5%. I don't know. I'm just using a number, instead of being like, wow.
Right. So you look at all of the areas they couldn't reflect it. And you'd feel unsafe back then.
Right.
Instead of looking what they could reflect and receive.
Yeah. And being like, oh, I can take this. I know that they're going to totally shit the bed over here and all these things and make so many messes, and that's okay. They can love me in this way, and I'm going to fully absorb that and receive that love that they have to give. Because that as I got to doing that, it was such a game changer. It was a thing that also was part of me building confidence, and part of me feeling settled in life and finding happiness was like absorbing the love that people had the capacity to reflect.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had so much more judgment in my younger years because I was looking, because what I wanted was to find the ultimate safe people,
right,
who would be safe in every way for me. and would never hurt me, and let them in and then let them love me. So really I was looking for perfect parents
instead of safe enough people.
Yep.
Safe enough friends.
Yep.
Enough.
Good enough.
Good enough.
I've really changed my mentality on that.
Yeah.
A lot, and see things really differently now.
Yeah. I think more than ever, I know that I don't know everything.
Yeah.
That's something else that's changed a lot for me. I'm just like,
oh, we thought we knew everything.
Oh, I know. I had so much shame. I had to know everything.
Yeah. That's how you proved that you were good, is that you knew a lot. It's funny now, because now I look at like teenagers and 20s and even early 30s, and when they act like they know everything, I'm like, this makes you look dumb. Like when I was acting like I knew everything, I thought it made me look smarter. I thought it made me look like I had something to contribute to the world. I thought it made me look like I had it together. And there are lots of things that I knew. I mean, I've had adults from every age my whole life be like, oh my gosh, wow, I didn't know that. So
there was gifts of wisdom and insight to not be overlooked on our life, but there was that, that root of like, I know it all. I got it together. I got the answer here.
And now I'm like, I actually respect people that are like, here are the things I know, and there's a lot that I don't know. And that makes me feel
here's what I perceive to know.
Here's what I think I know. Yep. Here's what I think I know that might change in 5 years. Yeah. That feels like a really big truth. Okay. If you could go back to you in your early 30s, what would you tell yourself there?
You're going to survive this sickness. You're going to find some of your closest friendships on the other side of it and through it. Like, there is gifts that will deliver themselves in the middle of this, so you're not alone. I think that would be a really big thing. I would tell myself even more, keep enjoying, like at every age. And I think when I'm 50, I'd tell 40-year-old Justin to enjoy 40s more than I did. Like, constantly wanting to remind myself, like, enjoy the moment that's right in front of you. Enjoy the gift of what each season brings to you. That was in some of the places where I was getting sickest, and it was like really tormenting, and felt like I didn't know if there would be a future for me, and I would tell him, like, hey, there's a future. Rest, let yourself rest. There was a lot of fight in me trying to survive it. And I couldn't give myself the rest that I needed, trying to fight myself out of it, Yeah. And trying to fight for a future that I didn't know I'd have, because I felt like I was dying,
Right.
Because I was. Yeah. And what else would I tell him? Oh, I'd tell him, you don't have to hide. Like, you can be a leader, because I hid a lot from leadership because I was scared of more abuse. And I talk about this openly. I was talking about this the other day in life consulting, our LCMC class, where I was like, there's a part of me that's just scared that the more influence that happens for me, the more bullies come out of the woodworks to pick apart every little thing you say.
Totally.
And I would tell him, don't hide. There's more than enough love for you. You're going to be taken care of. You don't have to be on guard. You don't have to dim your light so that you don't get bullied more, and obviously that conversation goes all the way back to a little boy who just like so deeply wants to be safe and not be bullied and hurt. And, that'd be a conversation I'd even have in my 20s. Like, hey, you don't have to hide. Because there was I was fighting in my 20s, especially when I did the Liberation Project. Yep.
Was that in your 20s?
Late 20s, early 30s, I think.
Okay.
I think it was somewhere in there. Anyways, there was something towards building toward, because it was prior to the Liberation Project where this kind of started. I remember being in Blair's office, And we were talking about the things that we wanted to do with our life. And we each had these big blockades. Like, what is it? What is it? And, you know, I walked up to the board and I wrote hiddenness. And he shook his head and he's like, yeah, I want to hide. I'm like, yeah, I want to hide. And it's going to be okay if you come out of hiding. Yeah. So that was a changing point for me. Yeah. I remember I sat probably for, man, how long was it? It was a couple months, but I mean, rigorously, daily for a few weeks, being like, you have permission to not hide. You have permission to not hide, over and over again, speaking to myself and being like, hiddenness doesn't benefit you. It's not protecting you. It's time to shed the hiddenness. And it was a journey. It's been a journey since then. It's been like a decade journey of like shedding pieces of hiddenness off and being like, I can shine. And I'm in it right now. I mean, like we're actually something that all of you listeners, this will be the first time you'll hear about this. Abby's looking at me like,
I have no idea what you're
what
about
is he
to
say.
A lot of our podcasts, I have no idea what you're going to say.
Yeah,
I'm like,
But we're in the process. We just got some video equipment and we're in the process of figuring out how to develop doing video on YouTube and stuff like that. Our podcast. Yep. And making tons more videos, at least me personally, taking some time to participate and doing stuff like that. So I'm getting ramped up on laying all that out. And that's part of my journey of coming out of hiddenness, because I've actually ran from video. I have a film background and I'm like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. And I swore at one point that I would just stay hidden behind the camera because I was scared of being in front of it. And I hunkered down and was like, no, part of the journey of coming out of hiddenness is to create at that level and allow my influence, my physical face and my being and my message to be in that way. Yeah. And defeat any fears that exist inside of that. And I know that it comes with all kinds of messiness, but it all comes with all kinds of blessings and beauty. Yeah. And I'm surrendering to that in this season.
It's really true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this feels, this has felt really fun.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this. I feel really proud of you for how far you've come. I also feel like there's been a lot of intentionality that you have sowed into your life. And so it feels fun to see the things that you're reaping, the wisdom that you have. I think you definitely have transformed so much throughout your life, and change is possible. I was just talking to somebody today who took one of our courses because you'd written an email that said change is possible. And he didn't believe change was possible for his life. And it is possible. And his whole life has changed. And he was thanking us and had tears in his eyes. And I was just feeling so thankful. But it's something that is true. I've seen in your life, change is possible. And healing is possible. And both of us are not healed.
No.
We're still really freaking messy.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of things we're learning and we're putting into practice and we're trying to do with people. Yeah. But there's so much that I've seen you grow in and settle in and become. And so if you're listening out there, it's a good time to get intentional about your life. Dream about what your future is. Speak about how it's going to be good. Yeah. Look for people ahead of you and start to visualize how your life can grow moving forward.
Yeah. And
those are some of my takeaways.
That's great. With that said, some of you may try to, wish me a happy birthday. And I'm going to be gone this week.
That's true.
You guys are listening to this on Monday, and I will be flying out to Wyoming with a group of friends to hide out
in the middle of nowhere
in the mountains
with no cell service.
Yeah. So don't be offended if I don't respond. Honestly, oftentimes I don't respond to people on birthday messages because I get overloaded with birthday messages.
But it also makes you so happy.
It does. Like I sit and take time to read stuff and my brain sometimes overloads, but know that any message that you guys send or anything that comes my direction, I feel super loved by you. And an easy way to send a message, if you don't know how, you can go to Justin and Abby, that's abi.com. And if you wanted to say something, maybe how you've been impacted or whatever, you can go to our main page, I think our front page, and you can send it in, or you can go to the
Connected
Life podcast page. We have a form somewhere in there where you could send something into.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this and you want to transform your life, we have Living Fully Alive will be coming up in January. You can start to save and get ready, and you can get on our waiting list for that. We love having people get on our waiting list, email list, so you can know what's happening around the Stumble world.
Yeah. With that said, thanks for taking time to talk about my 40.
Yeah.
My 40s, babe.
Happy birthday. I like you.
Thanks.
I'm proud of who you've become. You've grown a lot.
Thank you.
And you're in a growth spurt now, and that's what's inspiring, is that you're always becoming more of who you were authentically made to be.
Thanks. Love you, babe.
Love you.
Love you people out there. Happy 40th to me. Bye.